Christine Sawinski, Project Coordinator for the Mobile Health Program. We welcome you to our webinar today, which is one of our mini series in our webinars that we are able to bring to you. Today, we have 22% of you are joining us from the community and 34% are joining us as UD faculty and staff. So again, thank you for joining us in this programming that we have. The audience lines will remain muted throughout the presentation. Any questions you have, please put them in the Q&A session. Please put them in the Q&A box and we will save time at the end of the session to answer your questions. Any technical issues at all, please use the chat box and we will take care of those as soon as possible. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available for viewing after today's presentation. We will also be sending you an evaluation that we would really appreciate if you could send back to us because we use the feedback to plan for future programming events. So once again, I'm Christine Sawinski, Project Coordinator for the Mobile Health Program. The Mobile Health Program brings health and wellness services to our underserved communities with hands-on experiences for our students. You can visit our website at mobilehealthdelaware.org to learn more about who we are and what we do in the community, as well as other upcoming virtual programmings, like the one that you are attending today. We also have another webinar coming up on January 27th about building healthy meals while saving your wallet. So please register for that please register for that session as well. So today it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Brianna Hout, who will be speaking to us on Goodbye 2020, Self-Reflection and Resolution for a New Year. Thank you. Thanks, Brianna, again, for being with us. I know you were here in the fall and in summer, and we do thank you for your time that you are giving us during our partnership as well as to our community. So I will stop sharing now and let you screen.
All right. It's my pleasure to be here. All right. So we're at the beginning of a new year. It's been a challenging year for a lot of people, 2020 was, and 2021 is already turning out to be a little bit challenging for folks as well. So we kind of had the thought that we'd spend a little bit of time reflecting on last year, kind of individually and as a group and as a community here in Delaware. And I'm going to talk a little bit about making resolutions for the new year. And when I say resolution, I don't mean making weight loss goals or anything particularly specific that I think typically tend to see when we talk about New Year's resolutions, but rather just about improving our overall health and wellness, and especially with a focus on our own mental health, since we've all really had a lot of struggles in the past year. So that's what we're going to do today. I really want to leave everybody with an opportunity to really just reflect and take this next time that we have together to focus on yourself and the things personally that you've experienced and felt during the past year and the past 13 days of 2021, which have been already interesting to say the least. Mourn some losses, celebrate maybe things that were successful for you, and hopefully find some silver linings. Having a challenging year with COVID-19, I think, has really taught us all to better practice gratitude and think about the smaller things that are happening that we can appreciate. So I'm hoping that we can take this time together to do that. And what I really want to do is I'm going to teach you, if you haven't used it before, how to use a platform called Jamboard to do both of these things. So first we'll do one to reflect on our year and the things that have happened. And then we're going to do another Jamboard at the end to kind of think about the future and put your goals in. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that then, but I'm hoping this will be a time for you to actually reflect and participate, engage, and be less of me talking at you and more of you using this time to just sort of process and think. So 2020 was a tough year for a lot of people. Can we find a silver lining there? And I just want to give everyone a moment to think about if there's a particular memory or a particular thought or something that happened that stands out for you. So everyone take a piece of paper or open up a Microsoft Word window and just kind of think about if there's something that stands out, good or bad, hopefully maybe something that you can find the silver lining in, or some feeling that maybe you've had over the past year, and hang on to that as we keep continuing to reflect. All right. And here are some questions as we're kind of thinking about 2020. If you can jot something down, that'd be great. If you can't, just hold it on into your mind. But I want to teach you kind of how to reflect. So take a deep breath and ask yourself a couple of these questions. We're thinking about last year. Was there a time that you really had fun? Or a memory maybe with friends or family over Zoom, or if you got to see people in person, or however you handled the last year? What was something that really stood out to you? Was there a time that you stepped outside of your comfort zone or took a new risk or tried something new? I know for me, I tried a lot of new things working from home and as a therapist, practicing therapy from via Zoom and in the digital world. So that was definitely a new thing for me. And again, I asked you in the previous slide about any particular memories, but anything specific that you'll kind of carry with you from last year. I've had a lot of folks tell me that this last year has kind of, while been challenging, also taught them about resiliency and the human spirit and how we can move together through things if we work together as a community. So maybe some spirit or some feeling or thought that you had that you can carry with you. And also think about a time maybe that wasn't so great. When we reflect, it's also important to think about how we handled rough times. If any of you attended my last webinar, we talked about mental health, checking up on your mental health, and reflecting and thinking about this can also give you a good sense of how you're doing right now. So it might have been tough. Can you think back on those memories and do you see yourself getting through them? Are you still really struggling with them? Is there anything that happened that for you really sparked some kind of personal growth or helped you to change in some way? And how was your social life? Last year was a really isolating year for a lot of people for so many reasons. And were you able to kind of take a step back and appreciate or engage in your social support? Do you have strong relationships that were able to help you through? How did it go with your family? And did you learn anything new about yourself? I think we all have, even if it wasn't a global pandemic, we all definitely learn things about each other, about ourselves over a year. And the new year always tends to be a time of reflection. But what I really want you to think about too is not just 2020, but that you can use this anytime you need to take a step back or a time out and think about kind of moving forward, what you can learn from the past. And there actually was a Japanese man who came up with this method of self-reflection called Naikan, which means looking from the inside. So some of these questions that came from Naikan's model look for sort of these basic structure of all the aspects of your life and how they fit into different categories. So looking at people that were in your life over the past year or meaningful relationships, maybe travel, which a lot of us didn't get to do. I know I virtually traveled to a lot of places and did museum tours and watched a lot of shows about the outside world this past year since I didn't personally get to go anywhere. He encourages you to think about objects or things that were important to you. Certainly having a webcam was important to me this past year. Also think about the environment, and I mean that broadly in terms of nature and if you spent time outdoors, and also the environment that we live and work in, if there were difficult situations and how you got through them, and if there were accomplishments. So some of these questions on this slide is just getting you to think about kind of the holistic pattern of how things are going, and if there's a way you can kind of reflect on how that kind of happened for you last year. So I really like this model because it's a holistic, and that's the way I like to approach mental health anyway, as a holistic model that really thinks about every aspect of your life and how you can kind of make sense of it and process it and give it time, just like if you were practicing mindfulness. Allow yourself to recognize something and then hopefully let it go or learn something from it and move forward. And now what I'm going to do is show you how to use Jamboard. But I want you to think about, and this can be in a very broad sense, something that you would maybe want to take with you into the future, something that you want to leave behind, and any particular thoughts, feelings, or memories that you have. So I'm going to stop share for a second and show you all what I mean by Jamboard. So bear with me one moment. So think about those prompts, and as you're hopefully making a couple of notes about your 2020 or other things that have kind of happened for you, I'm going to share with you how to use Jamboard, and then I'm hoping that all of you won't mind participating. All right. So this is Jamboard. What I'm going to do once I kind of give you the very brief tutorial of how to use it is I'm going to put a link in the chat that you'll be able to go to get on this shared space. So when you get into Jamboard, it'll look just like this, but it's anonymous. So it's going to pop up and we're going to get all kinds of weird names like anonymous dinosaur or purple person instead of your real name. So it's anonymous. And you can do all sorts of things. We'll do it together as a group. So you can make a sticky note that says goodbye 2020, put it on here, move it around, tilt it, make it bigger. You can also search for Google Images, and you can do things, let's see, reflection. Maybe you like this picture and it reminds you of something you did this year, and you can pop that in there and move it around. So just a cool shared space. You can play around with it. There's the sticky. You can also write and erase. So you can kind of make lines like this. So you can do anything like that that you want to do. And the cool thing about it is that you can make a text box and write something. So you can play around with it a little. You can fill, and we'll all be kind of working on the same page. So we'll all see what everybody's writing about their reflections. It's difficult. Remember, things you can let go or put together. And I'm going to play a little bit of music while we do this. And I think the easiest way to do this is for you to just play around with it. So I'm going to pop the link in the chat, and then I will share my screen so everybody can see it. And Lahoma asked, yes, is Jamboard like a shared vision board? And yes, it is. I just saw there was a Q&A there. So let me put the link in the chat here. Whoops. All right, here it comes. And it just went into the chat. So if you click that, it should take you right to the Jamboard. And I'd like you to kind of reflect on 2020. Okay. And I'm just gonna give you all a few minutes to kind of get in there and play around with it. I'm gonna turn on a little bit of
Bree,
music.
this is Christine. I clicked on the link and it's saying view only.
Uh-oh, hold on a second.
Okay.
Editor, here we go. All right, now it should work. Oh.
Okay, now it is working.
All right, there's the link, everyone. I just sent it again.
It is working, thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'll share my screen here for a second. So everyone can, I like kind of watching everybody work on them, and then I'm gonna turn on, a little bit of music and just give you maybe 5 or 10 minutes to add some thoughts, things that kind of popped up for you. it maybe one more minute, and I'll leave it open even when I start talking again if you have other thoughts you want to add to it. You all are amazing. So please feel free to keep jamming while I start talking a little bit more at you today. And we're going to remember do that again with a new one at the end. But I saw some incredible things come up, lots of new things to celebrate, and some maybe anxious or fearful or things that we lost out on last year. So I think it's important to mourn losses and celebrate successes and just think about it holistically, what things have kind of changed with you. So it's really cool to see everybody's together. And one of my favorite parts about Jamboard is you get to see everybody kind of working on it at the same time. So lots of things popping up, moving around. And like I said, I'm going to leave this one open for a bit. So feel free to keep playing with it. I know some people like me are also fidgety listeners. I think I learn better when I have something else to play around with. So feel free to keep using it. And then I'm going to share another one at the end for us to kind of look forward to the future. So thank you everybody for participating. And I also will, I will send everybody a copy of the Jamboard in a PDF, or we can post it if folks want to have it. Okay. All right, so I'm hoping that now that we've spent a little bit of time reflecting, which is an important part of any growth or change, we can move forward a little bit. And there are also some really ways that seem silly to let go of things, but that can help. One is doing something like we just did, where you actually get the feelings out or the thoughts out that you have, and they're in a physical place and they live there. I've also had patients that I've had write things on paper and throw them away or put them somewhere where they don't have to look at them for a while. If you want to hang on to things, you can also write them down and put them in a jar. And when you're having a rainy day, pull out a really positive memory of something that happened, just to trick your brain into thinking about it or remembering it. So reflection is really important. And that's if you do have personal goals or professional goals or things that you want to do in the future, being able to kind of look at patterns and things that have happened before can be really helpful in helping you to kind of establish what those goals or what that direction is. So now I want to do something a little bit different, and that's to kind of leave all of that stuff in the background that we just talked about. But now I want you to think about the future. So imagine this time next year. Hopefully we will be out of COVID, I'm hoping. But what things do you want to keep the same? So I saw some great healthy things come up on the Jamboard. People losing weight, starting new hobbies. I saw another plant mom out there, so shout out about that. I've got a new herb garden growing on my windowsill right now. And I definitely want to continue doing some of those things. But there are also some things that maybe I want to change or that want to be different. And when you know that, that can give you a starting point for figuring out what your goals or what your direction might be. And it doesn't have to be something specific like losing weight or completely redoing your house or getting organized, which are all the things I hear people say this time of year. But it can just be a little change or something that you want to feel a little bit more, or a feeling that you want to maybe let go of a little bit. And I just wanted to share this slide because this time of year is also a time rife for disappointment, because New Year's resolutions don't usually work. They work with some people, and certainly some personalities are more apt to kind of keep up with their resolutions this time of year. But actually, there's not a whole lot of research that all of them are successful. Most people at this time of year have just gained some weight, maybe from I feel like enjoying the holiday season, which is maybe eating some things you wouldn't normally eat. And a lot of the resolutions are health related. A lot of people also have work goals. So maybe they've looked at this past year and they say, I really want to get a promotion next year, or I want to move into a different position, or I want to make more money. Certainly, finance is a big part of that too. And a lot fewer people have what we would call social goals. Spending more time with family, helping others, maybe just enjoying life more. So that might surprise you since we just spent some time talking about every aspect of your life. But I want you to get out of the mode of thinking everything would be better if I lost 15 pounds, or everything would be better if I got that new job at work, or everything would be better if I had more money. And instead, think about other things that maybe would be about improving your mental health or your social well being. So think outside of the box when you're thinking about the ways maybe you want things to be different. And also think about just keeping things the same, because if the status quo is good, then that's a good thing too. To just have things be the same as they are this year can also be a very realistic and reasonable and successful goal. So not a ton of people accomplish the goals that they set for New Year's, but I'd like you to think about that. So as you're thinking through this, I wonder if, and you can put this in the chat if you want, if any of you set New Year's resolutions or goals regularly. Are they successful for you? And let me peep at the chat here, if anyone wants to put anything in there. Okay. Saw someone say they don't set goals. That's okay. I also feel like this particular year has been so weird that maybe it's not a time that you want to set like a weight loss goal or something crazy like that that's going to stress you out more when we're already experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety. I know personally for me, I just wanted to this year connect more with people because I feel like it was an isolating year. So even though I did a lot of Zooming and I talked to my family, I didn't see a whole lot of people. And I want to get more creative, especially as the weather warms up, about doing more outdoors things and seeing people maybe in a safe way, and just more connection, because that's something that as an extrovert, I've really missed this year. And research really suggests that kind of picking something that you enjoy is a really important way to make sure that you're successful. So enjoyment, or picking something that you know you're gonna have fun with, is much more likely is something that's gonna make you more successful, and you're much more likely to reach your goals if you do that. And I just saw someone else asked about showing to add pictures, and I'll be sure to do that before we do our next Jamboard. So I see you there. But if you choose something you enjoy, so I saw a lot of people on the Jamboard had some new hobbies this year. And if you really enjoyed that, then maybe a resolution, instead of some kind of vague self-improvement thing, is to just do more of that, and knowing that that'll make you happier. Or start something that you used to do and that you don't do anymore and you'd love to. Or reestablish a relationship with somebody, which I saw someone else do. There's lots of other things that you can kind of choose to do. That are not going to be so necessarily focused on numbers or health, or if I had more money, things would be better. If I had this, things would be better. Because I think that's what people get caught up in when they're thinking about goals and resolutions. So when you're thinking about a successful way to kind of, instead of set a resolution, we'll say just change or keep things the same, or get to the place you want to be. The first thing you have to do is really ask what your purpose in doing this is. Is it because you know it'll make your life easier? Is it because you want to be happier? Is it because you have some unresolved thing you want to deal with? Is it because something really challenging happened last year and you just really want to feel more like yourself, which is something I've heard a lot of my patients saying lately too. And be realistic in the goals that you set. Don't say, you're gonna fly to Europe this year, if that's an unlikely thing to happen, or don't say you're gonna lose 300 pounds if you don't have 300 pounds to lose. So you wanna make sure that you can set something that you can actually do. And a good goal is something that you start small with so that you can be successful, and maybe break down into smaller steps. I used to do a group that was all about parenting and finances, and you'd be surprised how many similarities there are between the two. But the biggest thing we talked about when we're setting those kinds of goals is that we have steps to get from one to the other. So I've had parents before say, I really want my child to be able to go to bed without so much of a fuss. So it's not an hour and a half long bedtime routine. And the smaller routine there is to say, well, we're not going to go from an hour and a half to 10 minutes between today and tomorrow, but what are some things that we could try to at least reduce the time? And then ultimately we'll get to where you feel comfortable with it. So pick one small thing at a time. And if you do choose a health goal, which you certainly can, I mean, plenty of people want to just be healthier. Saying something like, I want to take a walk for a few minutes a day, or I want to take a walk one day a week is a much more realistic, attainable goal than saying I need to lose 20 pounds. Or I want to eat less, whatever junk food maybe that you want to cut out of your life. Instead of just cutting it completely, maybe say, I just want to try to eat a little bit less of it, or I'm not going to eat ice cream every night, but maybe I'll just eat it 4 nights a week and see how that goes. Okay. And also, even though we're talking about this during the new year, don't limit it to the new year. You can engage in self-reflection and asking yourselves those questions and doing mental health checkouts any time of the year. And you can certainly set goals any time of the year. So the more that you can do that, the more that you can think through and reflect and take a moment to pause and see where you are and where you maybe want to be, it's more likely you're going to be successful. So reevaluation is good. Set a New Year's resolution in June or July instead of doing it in January. Okay. And also explore your passion. So if you've struggled with something before, maybe try something else. Not all resolutions have to be this very stereotypical what we tend to see this time of year. And if you're not sure what your passion is, maybe your goal will be to explore a bunch of new hobbies and see what you like. Maybe you'll watch some lectures online and see if there's something that really fascinates you, or maybe you want to try a couple of different arts and crafts and see if you want to get into that. Or maybe you just want to try watching more TV because you don't get a chance to do that, and you'd really like some time to relax and see what's going on in pop culture. So you can really think through anything as being something to goal. And if any of you are in the business world, you've probably heard this term SMART goals before. But what it really means is that anything that you set, you want it to be something that's just like we've always been talking about, both specific, simple, sensible, and significant are other S words that go with that. We want it to be measurable so that you can actually measure your success. I've definitely had folks tell me before, I really want to lose weight, and they don't say what that means. Or I really want to be healthier. What does that mean? Or in the financial world, you might have a goal like, I'd really like to buy a house. And what are the steps that you would need to take between now and then to be able to do that? You also want them to be achievable. You agree upon them, decide what they're going to be, and make sure that they're attainable. We talked about that. And relevant. So don't pick something crazy like I want to be married to Prince Harry next year. It's probably not going to happen. I mean, I guess it could. Anything's anything's in the realm of possibility. But think about something that you really think, when you're thinking about your passion and your purpose, is going to help you to kind of get to the goal of the person that you want to be. And also, people who set SMART goals tend to have a time limit on them. So if you say, I want to be healthier this year, instead of saying that, you might want to say, I want to take a walk this month in January, 1 day a week. And if I can do that for the month of January, then I'm going to revisit it and say, if I was successful, I'm going to try to take 2 walks a week. If I wasn't, I'm just going to try to continue taking 1 walk a week. Or if it didn't work, maybe I'll say I'm just going to walk once every 2 weeks. So whatever it's going to be, try and figure out how you can make it fit within this realm of SMART goals. And I know a lot of businesses and workplaces use these, so sometimes they can have kind of more of a negative work connotation. But if you're the type of person who, like me, tends to leave things lying at the wayside, having a way to kind of organize and put this all together can help you to really establish what's important to you. And the most important thing probably is to forgive yourself if you're not immediately successful. We are now at the 13th of January. Some of you have probably already set some goals, and maybe some of them have not come to fruition. And that's okay. Remember to be kind to yourself, and remember that if you really want to change, it's a process. Also remember that we are just finished up 2020 and we're in 2021, which have been the two most challenging years for most people than they've ever been before. In the mental health world, we're experiencing a crisis of anxiety and depression and isolation and all sorts of things that are just completely outside of our control. So it may not be the best year to set a financial goal or a work goal or even a health goal, because we just got to keep our heads above water. So for most people, my advice has been, what's going to make you happy and what's going to help you deal with the day-to-day stress of your life right now? And think about how you can set goals that will improve your mental health and your overall well-being. Okay. Also, give yourself a break. Take a second, pat yourself on the back, and remind you that you're doing the best that you can. We're all just trying to do the best that we can during a difficult time. Okay. Another thing that I've really suggested, especially to parents who are feeling really isolated, having their kids at home homeschooling while they're trying to work, or trying to figure out hybrid school and arrange childcare around that. I see all of you, and I also see that there is a real opportunity here to grow a support network of friends and others. So even if we can't be together in person, we can provide each other support to kind of get through the challenging times ahead. And if you're thinking that you want to pursue some sort of a goal or new hobby or something that no one else in your household enjoys, it can be great to kind of get out there and find like-minded people who want to do it outside of your immediate social circle. There's so many benefits of that. You're meeting new people, you're working on something that's important to you, you're developing your passion, and you want people around you that are going to be your allies in this. You also can tell people in your household, this is what I'm trying to do, and I'd love you to join me and do it with me if you want to, or just support me and tell me I'm doing a great job, even when it feels like I'm not. So remember to surround yourself with that positivity whenever you can. Okay. And another great thing to do is to take a step back and just kind of renew your resolve in a couple of months. So if you're setting those SMART goals, take a moment to kind of write down where you want to be, put a reminder in your phone to check in about it in a month and see if you, like me, maybe completely forgot I said I was going to do that and didn't do it. Or maybe I did it, but I didn't quite do it as much as I wanted to do it. And try to think about that. Another great tip you can use is to journal or keep track somehow. And now there are so many ways, if you have a smartphone or a computer, to let other people do that part for you. So I don't know how I would survive without my calendar on my phone and without iPhone reminders. They pop up like 4 times a day for me to remind me to do things. And I certainly have set them before for some of my personal goals. I this year really wanted to practice more mindfulness, and again, to work on my overall mental health and well-being. So I set a timer, and some days I decide not to do it, but most days I at least I try. And even me thinking about it is a step towards me maybe getting better at it. I've also tried to do less, for me personally, less time on my phone and more time in front of books and other things that are a little bit more stimulating for me, and also keeps me away from the news, which was a problem I really have had last year. And I'm sure a lot of folks here are experiencing that too. So I had enlisted my husband to tell me like when to set that aside. And I have promised him to do the same, because he's definitely worse about it than me. So we're kind of working together to try and figure out the best ways to reach those goals. And it's just about getting a little bit better. We're not perfect. We're not going to all of a sudden be able to cold turkey stop all of these bad habits or start brand new good ones, but we're trying and we're working on it together. And also just remember that habits are hard to break. I've certainly had patients who have health goals about even things like wanting to quit smoking, or they're trying to do dry January. I got a couple people doing that, and Godspeed to you. But remember that if you have a little bit of lapse, it doesn't ruin the whole thing. It just means you had a lapse. So forgive yourself about it and pat yourself on the back, and remember that you're trying your best and move forward. And that's the best that we can do. All right. And also, just again, because we're talking about this in a new year, doesn't mean that it's necessarily the only time you can do this. Self-reflection can occur anytime and anywhere. And actually, the more attuned you get to being a good self-reflector, the easier it'll be for you when something challenging happens. Times that people tend to self-reflect are times when negative things are happening too. So after we lose something or someone, or after something, we lose a job, or something difficult is happening, or there's some sort of crisis in the community, tend to incite this time when we take a step back and think through and try to make sense of it. But it certainly can be something that you do when things are positive as well. And checking in and reminding yourself to count your blessings and practice gratitude can also really help you to focus on just being the best version of yourself. Okay. And if you do have goals to grow and change, and maybe you want things to look different a year from now, or 6 months from now, or 2 days from now, whenever that is, it's a process. Anyone who's ever been in therapy probably knows that. Or if you've tried to learn a new skill. I used to use in my 100 class the example of juggling, and when I taught Psych 100, I would tell the students, like, just practice this and see how it goes and do it for a few weeks, and then I'll check back in about it. And I would send them this little worksheet and they'd try to do it, to talk about how your brain learns how to do new things. And most of the time they forgot to do it or didn't do it. It was not something that they had to do. But the few of them that really stuck with it and tried and used the reminders, they were able to do something new at the end of that 6 or 8 weeks. So it's an ongoing process. We're not going to change overnight. Any of you who have kids know that this is the most frustrating thing in the world to them when they decide they want to do something and you tell them, well, you can become a guitar player, but you're not going to be good even in 6 or 8 weeks. Maybe a year from now, you'll be surprised at what you've accomplished. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about this and thinking about ways you want to grow and change. And you can reevaluate this experience whenever you need to, and give yourself a break. If you feel like it's not working, or you don't even want to set goals this year, that's okay too. You definitely don't have to. Okay. And the last thing we're going to do is do another Jamboard. And I really want you to, for this one, think about everything that I've just said. So if some of you want to publicly put someplace, I'm thinking about it, I've explored my passion, this is what I want to do this year, you're welcome to do that. If some of you just want to share, it's been a hard year and I just want to get through the next year, that's okay too. If there's any particular thoughts that you have or feelings that you have, or hopes or dreams or anything else that's going to help you move forward, reflecting on the things that we're leaving behind, this is the place to do that. So I'm going to open it up and I'll check the picture one more time here to see if it's working. Whoops. But really trying to think about the future and maybe where you want to be next year. Let me make sure the link's not set to view, and it is. Okay. All right, let me share screen for just one more second and see if I can move things up with the picture. So just so you can see, because someone did ask about pictures, down here it should open up. You can upload from your computer, but it's easiest to go up here where it says Google image search, and then you put in whatever you're looking for and you can pick one of these to insert. Okay, you can tilt it, make it bigger, smaller. All right. And now I'm going to pop the link in the chat for you guys, and I'll turn our music back on. I'll give you another 10 minutes or so. And then if there's anybody who has questions, you can feel free to ask them. So here's the link. Oops. Just anything you want to reflect on for this year. looks like folks are slowing down just a little, so I'm gonna just give it another minute or two. You got anything else you want to add? All right. All right. Thank you everyone for being such active participants. These were really great Jamboards. Definitely going to be keeping these ones. All right. And I see people still working. Please feel free to add on to them or to continue to play with them a little bit. And afterwards, what I'll do is save them as a PDF, and I can email them out to folks. All right. So if there's any other questions or things that people are wondering about or thoughts that they have, please feel free to pop them in the chat or to ask in the Q&A. I don't have anything else for you other than to just say, please continue to do this and to engage in this form of self-care as often or as often as you need to, but and be kind to yourself is the take-home message here.
Thank you, Bree. That was absolutely wonderful. And the Jamboards are a wonderful way to interact with one another. Do you find that using the Jamboards, you're getting more participation from people than if you were in an area where people kind of knew who you were with Jamboards? You can.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I love about it is that it can be anonymous and that everyone can kind of work on it together. So I've used them in classes and things like that now too. But I've also said I'm such a handsy sort of learner. I obviously talk a lot with my hands. You can notice that on Zoom anyway, but I need something to be fidgeting with, to be really processing. So I think that it helps a lot with that. And I think a lot of other people are the same, especially being in front of the computer all day. It's nice to have something to kind of play around with while you're listening. But yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's also free. So anyone else it's a part of Google. So if anyone else wants to use it, it's not something that's exclusive. So use Jamboards. They're really cool. So an undiscovered little part of Google, the Google Suite.
Yeah, they are great. I actually used one in December and I really enjoyed what the audience had to say. It was great.
Great.
So it's not appearing that we have any questions from the audience. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, for taking time out of your Wednesday to spend the day to say goodbye to 2020 and hello 2021. And thank you again to Dr. Bree Hout for being with us and leading us into this 2021 with what you have to say as well, the Jamboards and all the information that you gave us.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for being active participants and sharing your hopes. And hopefully this gets you thinking about that. And and reflecting. So take care of your mental health.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And we hope to see you, I believe it's in 2 weeks for our next webinar. So please go to our website at mobilehealthdelaware.org and register. Thank you so much.